Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Frank Cizadate, coming to you live from Yo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. We'll take a look at the headlines. Federal government declares Monday public holiday. Lawan seeks cooperation of opposition parties for Nigeria's development. Plus, former U.S. Vice President Pence testify to federal grand jury probing Trump. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. We begin our recap news with the report that President Muhammadu Buhari within the week received President-elect Ahmed Bola Tinubu at the State House. The outgoing and incoming presidents prayed together at the presidential mosque, after which the president-elect departed without speaking to the media. Earlier, Buhari also received Governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi State. Tinubu's visit to Buhari comes less than 24 hours after the president argued that opposition's defeat in the February 25 presidential election was as a result of overconfidence. He added that the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, on the other hand, blended confidence with caution, saying they worked hard and won. While receiving the Progressives Governors Forum (PGF) led by the chairman, Governor Atiku Bagudu of Kebbi State, Buhari said they were already telling their foreign backers that they would defeat the APC. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the rehabilitation of the dilapidated Ogoni axis of East-West Road in Rivers State. Buhari gave the approval during the groundbreaking of 3 projects: the Center of Excellence for Environmental Restoration, Ogoni Specialist Hospital, and the Ogoni Power Project in Wiyakara Community, Kana local government area of the state. The president, who performed the ceremony virtually from Abuja and was transmitted live at the venue, said the event was in continuation of the fulfillment of the promises made to the Ogoni people before the 2015 elections, when he visited the area to campaign. He stated that the federal government, under his leadership, established a hydrocarbon pollution remediation project, which was overseeing the cleanup of crude oil impacted sites in Ogoni people. Buhari said aside from setting up the HIREP, his administration also deployed huge funds for economic development of Ogoni. In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has said that over 60,000 soldiers were recruited under his watch, noting that his administration funded the military to ensure an increase in the fighting power of the Nigerian army. Buhari said these are the Nigerian army trooping and presentation of Colors Parade 2023 at Eagle Square in Abuja. According to him, the country's interventions and budgetary allocation to the army between 2020 and 2022 alone has been able to procure hundreds of mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, troops-carrying vehicles, utility vehicles, tanks, and armored personnel carriers to augment those earlier procured from 2017 to 2022. The president further noted that the army had restructured the conduct of its operations to meet current realities, saying the quantum of platforms induced into the army since 2015 had enabled troops to take the battle to the terrorists and criminals, particularly in the northeast. He added that his administration has demonstrated commitment to increase the strength of the armed forces in its resolve to secure the country against all challenges.
With a significant improvement in the fighting power As a result of the procurement of equipment and mission-specific training, the Army was empowered to rejig its operations. Accordingly, the Army has restructured the conduct of its operations to meet current realities. The quantum of platforms induced into the Army since 2015 had enabled troops to take the battle to the terrorists and criminals, particularly in the northeast, resulting in the recapture of territories hitherto held by the insurgents. This has no doubt boosted troops' morale and enhanced their zeal to discharge their constitutional mandate. Furthermore, in line with my resolve to cater for the families of deceased personnel, over 50,000 children and wards of personnel who died in active service are on the Nigerian Army Scholarship from 2015 to date.
Felicitated with consummate businessman to the entrepreneur whose charity and goodwill continue to attract local and global recognition. Where stated that the impact of Adenuga's visionary leadership on the nation's economy set the pace for investment in oil and gas, telecoms, banking, real estate, construction, and hospitality. He also lauded Adenuga for making a remarkable presence in supporting entertainment, sports, and African culture within and outside Nigeria. The president extolled the philanthropist for his courage, humility, and dedication to nation building. In another development, the Vice President Yemi Osibanjo is set to him Governance Weekend with the theme Global Africa. Osibanjo's spokesman Laulo Kanda, in a statement in Abuja, said the Vice President was expected to be one of the guest speakers at the forum. Away from that, the federal government has declared Monday, May 1st as a public holiday to mark this year's Workers' Day celebration. The Minister of Interior, Ravi Aregbesola, made the declaration on behalf of the federal government. Aregbesola, in a statement, is largely responsible for the greatness of the country and the respect Nigeria now commands in the Committee of Nations. Meanwhile, the federal government has expressed worry over the lingering abuse of the expatriate quota policy by local and foreign companies, saying stiffer punishment would be meted out to violators. A chairman task force on expatriate quota administration in Nigeria under the Ministry of Interior, Bala Ilori, said this to newsmen after he led a delegation on an inspection of some companies in Rivers State. Ilori said the idea of the policy was to ensure that Nigerians were not shortchanged, pointing out that the country must benefit from the activities of the expatriates present in the country. He stressed that for every expatriate that can allow them to engage foreigners with technical competence in areas that may not be readily available in the country for a given period. Away from that, the chairman, Nigeria's in Diaspora Commission, Abike Debiri-Arewa, on Saturday said the mission in Egypt was making arrangements for the payment of visa fees for stranded Nigerians at the border of the country. The federal government had on Friday called on relevant authorities along contiguous borders of Sudan to create a humane condition for about 7,000 nationals, including Nigerians, to have unconstrained access to their various destinations. Debiri-Arewa, who met this call, said the nationals were not being allowed to cross the border into Egypt since their arrival on Thursday evening. However, giving updates on the stranded Nigerians at the Egypt border, Arewa said the mission has made arrangements to pay $9 per person and $25 visa fees. Within Egypt itself, one cannot travel from one region to another without an exit permit. Elsewhere, the Executive Director and Chief Executive, Nigerian Export Promotion Council (NEPC), Ezra Yakusak, says the council has set a target to generate over $5 billion from non-oil exports in 2023. The NEPC boss also disclosed that the country's non-oil product exports amounted to $1.34 billion in the first quarter of the year, representing an increase of 8.50% over the $1.24 billion recorded in the corresponding quarter of 2022. According to him, the sector recorded $4.82 billion in non-oil export earnings last year, which represented an increase of 39.91% compared to 2021 and the highest value of exports recorded since the council was established 47 years ago. Yakusak added that the disbursement of 308.45 billion naira worth of promissory notes to 199 exporting companies under the export expansion. Meanwhile, the federal government has revealed that it is compiling reports from the 36 states nationwide as part of efforts to determine the extent of damage from the flooding of 2022 and to provide relief for affected persons and states. The Jigawa State Governor Muhammad Abubakar disclosed this in Eastman shortly after the valedictory National Executive Council meeting presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the council chambers of the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Abubakar, who chairs the ad hoc committee on flooding, said 16 states had submitted reports showing the extent of damage occasioned by nationwide flooding during the last rainy season. They include Osun, Enugu, Akwa Ibom, Kogi, Delta, Kwara, Nasarawa, Adamawa, Gombe, Taraba, Yobe, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Kebbi, and Sokoto states. On the extent of damage in the 16 states, Abubakar said 104,000 households have been affected, 172,000 people displaced, while 201 died and 108 got injured. Recall that in October 2022, President Buhari had directed the Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, to lead and coordinate on white in 90 days. To the red chambers now, where the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has urged all the opposition political parties to team up with the incoming government of the All Progressives Congress (APC) to jointly take Nigeria to the next level of development. Lawan said the elections were over and what was left is governance, which is for everyone. The Senate President spoke in Abuja within the course of the week while receiving in audience a delegation of the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States (OACPS), led by Secretary General Georges Robelo Pinto Chikoti. Lawan told his guests that they came at a time Nigeria is going through a transition, but we move now to the judiciary, where Chief Justice of Nigeria CJN Olukayode Arewola has charged the newly inaugurated President of Customary Court of Appeal of the Federal Capital Territory (FCT), Stanley Adekunle Lawal, to be diligent, fair and dispassionate in the discharge of his duties. He stressed the need for public officers to accommodate scrutiny and criticism, as well as discharge their duties according to provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended. The CJN charged Lawal in fairness in his dealings with subordinates, adding that their position has automatically exposed them to public scrutiny. Meanwhile, an Ondo State High Court has barred Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu from installing one Chief Alexandra Akinadeju as the Aladeokun of Alade Idanre community in Idanre local government area. The court, presided over by Justice Idowu Kolawole, also restrained Chief Akinadeju from presenting himself for coronation as the traditional ruler of the town pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice. There have been protests in Alade Idanre over an alleged plot to impose what they termed stranger as the next king of the community by officials of the State Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs. The protesters vowed that the imposition of stranger to the stool of Aladeokun would not be tolerated. Politics, where Kebbi State Governor Abubakar Atiku Bagudu and renowned financial experts Wale Edun, who were both nominated into the Transition Council of President-elect Bola Tinubu, has said that the new government is committed to solving Nigeria's energy crisis. Speaking at the signing of a long-term gas supply agreement with Shell SPDC joint venture, he said the new initiative is a statement of confidence in foreign direct investment into the country. Edun said Tinubu believes in the private sector and would make ways for investment in environment and jobs. Meanwhile, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has told the opposition parties to stop their protesting over the 2023 presidential election and accept defeat over the election they lost woefully. Mohammed added that both Peter Obi of the Labour Party and Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party lost the election due to overconfidence and complacency. In a statement issued in Abuja by Special Assistant on Media, Segun Adeyemi, the minister said President's analysis on the reason for the opposition's loss in the 2023 election was incontrovertible. The minister further said the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, won the presidential election fair and square, clinching the majority of the votes cast and surpassing the constitutionally stipulated 25% of votes cast in each of at least two-thirds of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. In another development, aspirants hoping to occupy leadership positions in the two chambers of the National Assembly have intensified lobbying their colleagues and other stakeholders, including the leadership of the ruling All Progressives Congress and the Progressive Governors Forum, following Wednesday's planned meeting of the ruling party's National Working Committee is expected to seal the fate. Reports say the APC and the Progressive Governors Forum might eventually agree to zone the Senate presidency to either the Southeast or the South-South. Meanwhile, the position of the NWC is shared by the Conference of the APC Local Government Party Chairman of Nigeria, which suggested that the Senate presidency be zoned. That it took the stance after consulting with critical stakeholders in the overall interest of the party and the country. On electoral matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) within the course of the week declared Ogonna Ozuribo of the People's Democratic Party the winner of the February 25 House of Representatives election conducted in Ngwagele, Nkwere, Isu, Njaba Federal Constituency of Imo State. The collation officer for the Federal Constituency, Professor Rosita Okechukwu, who announced the result at the collation office at Ngwegele local government area, said the PDP candidate scored 19,971 votes. The Labour Party candidate got 9,372 votes to come second, while Harrison Nwadike of the All Progressives Congress pulled 8,991 votes to come third in the election. Recall that INEC had on February 27 declared the election inconclusive, saying that the election did not take place in parts of Njaba local government area. But the PDP candidate challenged the electoral umpire's decision to declare the election inconclusive. On labor matters, the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) has commended the federal government on the 40% salary increase for workers in the country. This was part of resolutions at the end of the National Administrative Council meeting of the NLC. The union, in a statement jointly signed by the NLC President Joe Ajero and the Secretary General Emmanuel Obuaja, also warned state council members to desist from covering state governors committing atrocities against workers in their states. According to the statement, they will take immediate disciplinary action against all officers who are currently working with some state governors to flagrantly defy the orders of the National Administrative Council and the Central Working Committee as it concerns the outcome of the State Delegates Conference. Move to education, where a total of 364 blind candidates are to sit for the 2023 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination in 11 centers across the nation. The chairman, JAM, Equal Opportunity Group, JOG, Peter Okebukola, who made this known while providing the highlight of 2023 examination in Abuja, commended the JAM registrar, Ishaq Oloyede, for the special arrangement for these category of Nigerians, saying the goal of the Oloyede-led JAM was to ensure that no eligible Nigerian is prevented from taking the UTME regardless of disability. It disclosed that from 2017, JOG had processed about 2,600 visually impaired candidates for the UTME, with over a third admitted to courses of their choice in higher education institutions in Nigeria, mainly universities, adding that the initiative had been cited in the last 4 years in several countries as a good model for Africa. According to reports, the special examination conducted by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board for visually impaired candidates will hold between April 27 and 29, 2023 under the supervisory of the JAM Equal Opportunity Group. On security, the Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Irabo has said national security in Nigeria is complex, noting that the security situation in the country requires a multifaceted approach from all sectors of the society. Irabo, who was represented by the Director of Training, Defense Headquarters Tanko Pani, spoke at the opening ceremony of a two-day workshop titled Use of Broadcasting in Complementing the Military in Conflict Mitigation and Conflict Management. The defense chief noted that an all-of-society approach is required to end the insecurity bedeviling the country. He highlighted some security challenges faced by the country in the past decade to include terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, communal clashes, oil theft, piracy, drug and human trafficking, illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing, cyber crimes, amongst others. A Police Service Commission, Solomon Arase, former Inspector General of Police, in the course of the week announced plans by the Commission to set up a complaint response unit parallel to the existing Police Complaint Response Unit under the command of the Nigeria Police Force Headquarters. Arase made this known during separate meetings with the officials of a civil society organization, Clean Foundation, and the national leadership of the Nigerian Union of Journalists in Abuja. According to a statement by the spokesperson for the PSC, Ikechukwu Ani, Arase said, a police force that does not connect with the public or respect human rights will find it difficult to succeed, noting that the Commission would do everything possible to improve the services of the police. And still to come in the news, ExxonMobil reports record profits of $11.4 billion. To stay with us.
Good morning, Nigeria. Year after year, they have informed, educated,
and now, this service will finally be recognized.
Come May 17th this year, broadcasters all over Nigeria will gather at a hotel and suites for the maiden edition of the Nigerian Broadcasting Awards, an award ceremony set to reward hard work and excellence in the broadcast media. Voting starts on 20th April and ends on 4th May 2023. Visit www.tnbawards.ng to vote now. They've served and they're still serving. It's time we say thank you. This award is organized by the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, Bonn.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigeria. From issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria. I remain committed.
security, education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Stay with us and now to the rest of the news stories, starting from the African scene. Fighting between Sudan's army and paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) has entered a third week with air raids and artillery coursing back over the capital Khartoum and adjacent cities of Bari and Omdurman, despite the announcement of a 72-hour ceasefire extension on Friday. Report says at least 512 people have reportedly been killed and nearly 4,200 wounded. Fighting began on April 15, adding that the violence has reawakened a decades-old conflict in Sudan's West Darfur region, where at least 70 people have died. Recall that rival factions of Sudan military had earlier agreed to renew a 3-day ceasefire. It was due to expire following extensive diplomatic efforts by neighboring countries as well as the US, UK, and UN. A previous truce allowed thousands of people to attempt to flee to safety, while dozens of countries have tried to evacuate their citizens. Almost 2 weeks of fighting between the army and rival paramilitary group have reportedly left hundreds dead. Meanwhile, UK says Gail's leaver, its ambassador to the Foreign Office, said in a statement that from Addis Ababa, leaver will lead the UK's diplomatic efforts in the region to bring fighting to an end in Sudan. The UK authorities said so far 6 flights had evacuated 536 British nationals from Sudan, but there has been criticism of the slowness of the UK government evacuations compared with other Western countries. In the meantime, doctors in Sudan said at least 74 people have been killed during 2 days of fighting this week in the Darfur region in the west of the country. Reports say despite agreeing to extend a ceasefire by 3 days, the army and rival paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces (RSF), have been fighting each other in different parts of the country, including the capital, Khartoum. While both sides in the war are accusing each other of launching attacks, There is no ceasefire in parts of Khartoum and the western Darfur region. Recall that an AU peacekeeping force pulled out of the area 2 years ago, leaving people vulnerable to attacks by the RSF. Elsewhere, Coast Guard within the week recovered the bodies of 41 migrants off the Tunisian coast. A senior official said more than 200 people trying to reach Europe were known to have drowned in attempted crossings. Meanwhile, the North African country has now taken over from neighboring Libya as the main embarkation point for Europe-bound migrants. On the foreign scene, the island's defense ministry has said a long-range Chinese combat drone capable of carrying a large weapons payload has circled Taiwan. While Taiwan's defense ministry said it detected 38 Chinese aircraft, including a TB-001 drone nicknamed the Twin-Tailed Scorpion, around the island between 6 Maiden Line, an official boundary dividing the Taiwan Strait to the island's south before flying around its east coast and returning to China. Democratic Taiwan live on the constant threat of an attack by Beijing, which views the island as part of its territory. Still on the foreign scene, Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, in the course of the week, decreed 6 new indigenous reserves, the first after a lack of such expansion under his far-right predecessor, Jair Bolsonaro. According to reports under the decree, indigenous people are guaranteed exclusive use of natural resources on these lands, considered by scientists as a bulwark against Amazon deforestation, a major challenge in the fight against global warming. Meanwhile, Lula signed the official decrees on the final day of a gathering of indigenous people from around the country in the capital, Brasilia. Away from that, former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence appeared before a grand jury investigating former President Donald Trump's role in efforts to overturn the 2020 election. According to reports, Pence was inside U.S. District Court in Washington for more than 7 hours. The former vice president's appearance before the grand jury comes as he is exploring a possible challenge to Trump for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024. Security was beefed up at the federal courthouse in Washington, and a bomb-sniffing dog was spotted in the hallway. Trump, who announced late last year his bid for the White House for 2024, was recently indicted in a separate probe in New York over alleged hush payment. In the meantime, U.S. has announced plans to open new migrant processing centers in Colombia and Guatemala as part of efforts to reduce undocumented immigration. Reports say the processing centers will allow successful applicants to enter the U.S. legally and improve the access to assistance expected to be processed a month, but it will be scaled up, noting that Spain and Canada have also agreed to take a number of those applying. The U.S. also announced plans to double or triple the number of deportation flights to some countries at the end of COVID-era processing rules in May. Still on the foreign scene, Pope Francis has reportedly arrived in Hungary for a 3-day visit likely to be dominated by the war in Ukraine. His first full trip to the country since he became Pope 10 years ago, and he will be meeting with Nationalist Prime Minister Viktor a month after being hospitalized for bronchitis. Reports say both men are expected to hold a peace talk in relation to the war in Ukraine. The Pope will be meeting with the poor, homeless, and Ukrainian refugees, and will also hold an open-air mass in Kotso Square today before his departure. According to reports, Francis is the second pope to visit Hungary after John Paul II made trips in 1991 and 1996. Meanwhile, Russia attacked cities in a wide arc across Ukraine early today, killing at least 19 people. Cities across Ukraine, killing at least 19 people within the course of the week, as Kyiv said preparations for a highly anticipated offensive against Moscow's forces were nearly completed. The barrage of almost 24 missiles overnight ended a weeks-long pause following the repeated Russian strike that had aimed to paralyze Ukraine's energy grid during the winter months. We move to the business world, where oil giant ExxonMobil has reported record profits of $11.4 billion, more than doubled in the first 3 months of this year as a result of the increased demand for oil and gas. The U.S. energy firm said cost-cutting measures also contributed to its record $11.4 billion first quarter profits, up from $5.5 billion a year earlier. ExxonMobil said the rise in profits included a $3.4 billion after-tax reduction to exit Russia. Reports say the jump came despite falling oil prices and a $200 million hit from windfall taxes the company paid in Europe, adding that rival U.S. oil firm Chevron also reported an increase in its profits. Meanwhile, Femi Otedola has reportedly sold his 2.47 billion shares in transnational corporation Transcorp to Tony Elumelu, bringing an end to the powerful between the billionaires. According to reports, Elumelu allegedly acquired the shares from Otedola at the cost of about 32 billion naira. This indicates that Elumelu bought out Otedola at 300% above Transcorp's market value as of Thursday, with each share bought around 12 naira 5 kobo compared to Thursday's closing price of 3 naira 12 kobo per share, a 5.52% stake in the firm. It was later announced on Thursday that they acquired an additional 228.38 million shares on April 20th to increase its stake to 6.08%. In response, Elumelu increased his stake in Transcorp from 2.06%, that is about 840.62 million shares, to 25.2%, amounting to 9.99 billion shares, as he bought an additional 9.69 billion shares through his investment company, HH Capital Limited. Still in business, airlines exchange rate has surged from 582 naira per dollar to 610 per dollar, signaling an imminent increase in international airfares tickets. The surging rate is attributed to the accumulation of trapped funds by foreign airlines, which now exceed $700 million. The rate has increased twice in the past 2 months, rising from 460 naira per dollar to 551 naira per dollar in March, and further to 610 naira to $1 in April. Despite efforts to avoid the collection of funds in naira and reduce the amount trapped in Nigeria, airlines trapped funds have surged from $744 million in March to $802 million in April. Susan Aporoye, president of the National Association of Nigerian Travel Agency, NANTA, confirmed the rise in the ROE and stated that airfares would go up as a result. And still to come in the news, Leclerc beats Verstappen to pole position. To stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of the news stories. In health, the Delta State government has urged for partnership with the media and all stakeholders to deepen awareness on the dangers posed by tuberculosis (TB) in the state. The call was made by the Director, Department of Public Health, Ministry of Health, Dr. Christian Tetsola in Asaba, during a one-day training workshop for journalists and media workers by the State Ministry of Health in collaboration with its technical partners, KNCV and Breakthrough Action Nigeria, with support from the U.S. aid. Dr. Tetsola, in his welcome address, said the prevalence of TB was alarming and taking a high dimension in the state. He noted that there was an urgent need to mobilize committed efforts of all stakeholders to spread awareness and educate the people on the likely dangers posed by the airborne disease. He said that TB, if detected early, was treatable, but for ignorance and lack of awareness, many suffer and die from the disease. Dr. Tetsola said the campaign against TB must be intensified if positive results must be achieved. He expressed the state government's displeasure over the poor attitude of the people in utilizing protection and check the spread of the disease. In the meantime, the Anambra State government says malaria-related on-the-5 death rate has reduced from 77.8% to 14.3% from February 2022 to February 2023. The disclosure was made by the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Afam Obidike, in Awka at a news conference. The Commissioner urged residents to always make use of mosquito-treated nets, clean their environments, and as well as clean bushes to prevent malaria. He also advised residents to visit hospitals for proper diagnosis and treatment of malaria, noting that the state government had subsidized the cost of treatment, especially for children. We move to sports, where Ferrari's Charles Leclerc became the first non-Red Bull driver to take a pole position this year with a stunning lap at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. According to reports, Leclerc beat Red Bull's Max Verstappen by 0.188 seconds. Sergio Perez was third in the second Red Bull, ahead of Leclerc's teammate Carlos Sainz. Lewis Hamilton took fifth ahead of Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso. Meanwhile, Hamilton's Mercedes teammate George Russell failed to make it into the final. Philadelphia's 76 years are still not declaring Joel Embiid will be available for Game 1 of their conference semifinal starting on Monday due to a strained right knee. Embiid missed Game 4 on Saturday as the 76 completed a 4-0 sweep of the Brooklyn Nets, offering the MVP candidate an opportunity for rest ahead of their next series against either the Boston Celtics or the Atlanta Hawks. Reports say the 76ers center is yet to practice ahead of Game 1, and head coach Doc Rivers said he was undergoing doctor's examination on Thursday. Embiid appeared banged up during Game 3 against the Nets, taking a series of falls before missing Game 4, which the 76ers won 96-88. Meanwhile, Trae Young's game-winning three-pointer clinched Atlanta's 119-117 win on Tuesday, extending the Hawks-Celtics series to a 6th game, allowing the 76ers more time to recover after their sweep. In the meantime, Qatar has been named host of the 2027 Men's Basketball World Cup, beginning its reputation for staging a major global sports event. According to basketball's governing body, FIBA, Germany will hold the women's version in 2026. Qatar hosted the Men's Football World Cup in November-December and will now stage basketball's showcase tournament for the first time. All matches will be held at existing venues in the capital, Doha. The draw for the 2023 Men's Basketball World Cup takes place on Saturday in the Philippines capital, Manila. Meanwhile, the Philippines Indonesia and Japan will host this year's World Cup from August 25 to September 10. On our entertainment news, Nollywood actor Yul Edochie has officially broken silence on the birth of his son, Kambi, about 1 month after the 16-year-old passed on. In a tribute on his verified Facebook page, the actor said his late son made his mark despite that he lived for 16 years. Edochie, however, said he could not question God, but prayed him to rest the soul of his late son. Nigerian filmmaker Kemi Adetibe has returned with 3 new projects following the release of her last project titled King of Boys, The Return of the King in 2021. The filmmaker, who teased her forthcoming projects online, named them to be King of Boys 3, To Kill a Monkey, and Welcome to the 4th. This is first mention of the later, but Adetibe announced the 3rd part of her blockbuster series King of Boys earlier this year. DTH. You've been watching Spectrum TV Recap News, a review of major stories within the week. I am Francis, saying many thanks for being there and do enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening.